Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me.
Down the inside,
absolutely impossible season.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakely will dive to the inside.
We're robust. We got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Yarda Watmere is your champion.
Hello, good evening, and a warm welcome to you. Welcome back to PSGL, and this is PCF4. We've just turned into the fourth round of the season. The break week is over. Well, the break week for every tier except for F3, of course, because the last time you saw the both of us, Aro and myself, Rob, aka Frost, we were commentating in Texas. But unfortunately, something bad happened. The lobby died completely after the host decided to leave, and therefore the round had to be redone last week. Fortunately, things went well there, and now we're all back for the fourth round of the season. It is, of course, the famous round of Monaco, and yeah, of course, Monaco is always a big divider between many drivers. I think, Aro, there's a few drivers who really like it, especially one, which you're going to talk about in a moment. But there's also a lot of drivers that really do not like it, do they?
Yeah, I was saying to the stream prior, I was chatting to Rob, and I was saying Neil Gio is a driver who absolutely loves Monaco, so I'm expecting a Neil Gio win here. But in PSGL F4, it's not going to be an easy task. A lot of quick drivers here. although unfortunately some drivers missing today. There is some drivers who I know have seen race throughout my commentating career, and unfortunately some of them missing today. But there definitely is some quick drivers, although I don't know if the championship leader Lewis is here. Oh, my camera's
Trying
gone
to
missing
have
again.
a quick look. Yeah, that's a good point. He's either not here. He's not racing, actually. No.
And Alexi is, though, for the Red Bull, and Alex Santana. I definitely know of Alex Santana for TF10. He's a very quick driver. He's representing Aston Martin. He's currently P3 in the standings behind Alexi. Also, Nando Moreira. I've known of Nando for a long time, but he's not racing today. But yeah, I think that's basically everyone I know, other than Ryan Grubb and JST, who are way down the standings. But I'm excited to see some of the drivers I've never seen race before, but clearly have some pace if they're ahead of some of the drivers that I know in the standings.
Yeah, it's indeed Lewis Bloor leading by 6 points only, and this could be, no, I won't say a championship deciding race already, since he isn't here. But this could be a great moment for Alexi Cavero to turn up the heat and get into that championship lead. Of course, Lewis Bloor finished in P9 last time around in Texas, which unfortunately wasn't streamed due to commentator shortages pretty much. It was Alex Santana who's won the race, which immediately put him in third in the standings after having a no start in the first round, P12 in the second round, and then the win there in Texas, with Alexi Cavero coming second twice in a row now, and Gianluca Nolfo finishing in third, just behind Nando Moreira, are actually equal on points with the reserve driver in fourth place at the moment. Of course, Nando was your championship leader in round one with an astonishing drive there in Australia, and now he's already down to P4. We've got 15 drivers, turns out. There was 14 initially, but we've got an extra one here tonight. Of course, Alexi Cavero is indeed here. Alex Santana is there as well indeed, and your championship leader is going to be missing Neil Gio as your reserve driver alongside Diego Ferrer and Marius Yono. I'm trying to pronounce this correctly, but I believe it's pronounced Ioanu. I hope that's correct right there.
Ioanu looks good.
Yeah. It's a Greek name, so I believe it's pronounced that way. And of course, a few Dutch drivers, which their last names also appear to be a bit of a struggle for many people to pronounce. We've got Damien Carriel, Tristan Janssen in as the Dutch drivers. But we're about to get going, I believe, Aro, for 39 laps and 18 minutes of short qualifying. You're expecting Neil on pole. Is he going to be an absolute favorite here compared to the rest?
Well, as I mentioned, I've not seen a lot of these drivers race, so I'm really looking forward to seeing where Neil stacks up. If Neil does perform like how I think he should, then it's just a bit of a shame that Neil didn't reserve in a higher tier, but you never know. Neil could end up down the order here, and it turns out everyone else here has amazing pace, so I'm really looking forward to see what they can do. I will say there is a driver, Diego, who's Chilean, and my girlfriend's Chilean, so I think by de facto I have to cheer on Diego as well here today. So I've got two favourites for this evening.
Very nice. It's also nighttime, of course, because why wouldn't you do a Monaco race at nighttime when it's a league race? So there we are. You might notice something different around the track in the form of the boards along the side and above the track. You can see there the PSGL logo shining brightly, and our sponsor Sim Racing Setups along the side of the track. So this is pretty much a run for myself to confirm that everything is working properly, and so far so good. 15 drivers then ready to get out on track. Scott Holmes is the first to get out of that very narrow pit lane. It's already a tricky business to stay within those yellow lines to make sure you do not cut across it and potentially risk yourself a penalty, especially on the main straight. Of course, we all know there's only one DRS section. Overtake opportunities, well, pretty much zero, unless you're really brave, and I'm sure we're going to see some brave drivers tonight. In fact, Alex Santana in the Discord said he's going to try and bring out the safety car more or less, because he's going to crash his car, and I quote, so hard. Of course, we're going to hope that he's going to survive, because he's in the championship fight.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing what drivers can do. This is a big opportunity. There is a lot of drivers inside that top 10, I think, that are missing. So this is an opportunity for anyone to really stamp their mark on the championship here. There's not many rounds, only 11 rounds here. So a win here could be key towards the end of the season.
Yep, of course, we all say Monaco qualifying is one of the most important sessions of this particular race weekend. Scott Holmes is going to be the first to experience it. Let's join him on board as he tries to go around the track already. A car on the inside right there. Red Bull coming out slow and steady, making sure he does leave enough space on this very narrow track indeed. Then, as we head through Beau Rivage all the way to Massenet, then we're going to find out what's the sector time going to be in the end of sector number 1, as we're now heading to Mirabeau Haute. And that is turn 5, of course, purple obviously. 18.272 for sector 1. Then throwing it through the hairpin. You normally want to hug the inside of a corner, but in this hairpin especially, you do not want it because you want to carry as much speed through the slowest corner on the entire calendar as possible. Then, of course, the famous tunnel, turn number 9, headed toward the Nouvelle Chicane. And there is one of the Alpines moving out of the way. Nice and easy does it. Then make sure you don't cut the corner too much here. It's easy to do so. And penalties galore. The most of them coming from right there. Few more corners to go. Then, of course, the pool corner, one of the most famous ones, 51.115. Look at that. He's trying to control the car through this very tricky track indeed. But it looks like so far Scott Holmes driving a very stable lap indeed. I don't see a lot of mistake there as he goes onto the main straight for another time across the line. The first lap time being at 1 minute 8.859. That is quite the benchmark.
Yeah, I actually don't know what a good benchmark is around Monaco in this game. I mean, every game it changes. But we do have Tristan Janssen, his teammate, coming up to the line as well. And sets an 8-0. That's 8 tenths quicker.
Wow.
And I think times as we progress on will improve on. But as they go round and watch the drivers on their flying laps, everyone's bumping the walls as they are kind of using the balls to help with, or bumping the walls to help with rotation, which is funny to see in F1 cars, but it's just the quickest way around Monaco in this game.
There we are, Marius Ioanu. I'm struggling to pronounce his name, I'm so sorry. Marius Ioanu is slotting into second place with a 8.632 with Dennis Kamensky. I feel like he's made a mistake somewhere. 10.4 is definitely nowhere near as fast as the rest of them. With Lucas Shea, our lobby host once again for tonight, slotting into third position. We're trying to find somebody else down the field. Let's watch our second Ferrari driver, Neil Guillot, who is using the Monza livery. You can obtain those liveries now, and of course this new mode called Survival Mode, picking up a Ferrari livery or a Sauber livery right there for the next few weeks. There we are then, Thomas Laminen P3 with Neil slotting into second place, just over 2 tenths behind Tristan Janssen. So far, Tristan has set quite the benchmark there with an 8.0. Alexi Covera cannot get anywhere close either with an 8.4, and only a few drivers remain now on track yet to set a lap time. You can see both Mercedes drivers have retired. I haven't seen the steward penalties yet. Might be that they're serving a qualifying ban, and 100% I cannot confirm it for you just yet. And then there's only Diego Ferrer and Alex Santana out on track trying to set a hot lap. Gianluca Nolfo, Damien Carril still in the pit lane.
Yeah, I will say I was following Diego Ferrer on his lap and around the tight hairpin, one of the slowest corners on the calendar. Hilariously to see some drivers drift their way around that corner. He was in first gear as the back end stepped out. And he rounds the final corner now, and we'll see the Chilean driver come up to the line and see where he can go. Currently, an 8-0 is the benchmark, and Diego with an 8-9. I would have to say big gaps so far. Normally, the gaps in PSG are quite close, but I'd actually say the gaps are pretty big after that first run.
Alex Santana smashing his car into the wall after turn 1. Looks like it's still fine, but yeah, you're absolutely right. The gaps are quite large. From P1 to P10, there's already a second in it, and I think that is quite extraordinary. A 9.0. I feel like quite a few of these drivers either have made a few mistakes somewhere, maybe gotten themselves a bit of front wing damage, or are just sandbagging, I suppose, because, yeah, these gaps shouldn't be this big yet. The smallest gap being just over 2 tenths between the front row, actually. Tristan Janssen and Neil Guillot, 8.0, 8.2. And even there, I feel like these drivers have got something to give still. Tristan, therefore, now pretty much in an easy provisional pole position. There's still just under 12 minutes to go, of course. And we're going to find out if anybody can try and beat the Dutchman to pole position. As Diego Ferro just gets back in the pit lane. Scott Holmes gets back out for another run. And Alex Santana will be back in soon. But I think Damien Carril, as well as his teammate, will have some pressure on them already. Gianluca Nolfo is currently on a hot lap right there at the end of Sector 1. And 18.2 it was for Scott Holmes. So we follow him around 18.3 for Gianluca Nolfo at the moment. Slightly slower than the Haas driver as well. Drifting it there, like you saw,
Yeah.
who was it? Diego Ferro do
Diego,
as well.
yeah.
Was it? Yeah. It's just, they
Although
don't care about
Gianluca
the
was
tires
like-
in qualifying, of course.
Gianluca was even more extreme because he literally had to swap hands to get the car from spinning.
Oh.
As he unfortunately invalidates through the Novell chicane. But with Diego, he was just kind of drifting the back end, letting the rear slide around, whereas Gianluca actually had a Tokyo drifted, had to turn the steering wheel the wrong direction to make sure he doesn't spin. So it's funny to see whenever drivers are driving it this fast and to see an F1 car being drifted through the hairpin, and on the games, it's just the quickest way to go. As Damien Carrel does the same thing. It's just funny to see all these quick drivers drifting as he crunches the wall and exits and enters the tunnel. But I think he would have lost a lot of time because he did crunch the wall, exiting the hill down Portier. But as he heads through the Novell chicane, we'll see, can the McLaren drivers finally set a good lap time on the board? Gianluca missed his opportunity. Damien has a good opportunity now to set one as he navigates the pole section well. And funny to see just how much of these drivers use the walls on this game. But Dennis Kaminsky up the hill at Casino has hit the wall and is out as Damien up to P3 with an 8.4.
Not bad, but still miles away from our provisional pole sitter. Tristan is staying in the pit lane, perhaps trying to save out an extra set of soft tires. Keep in mind as well, we always say this in this Monaco race, there's a obligatory 2-stop in this race, which could potentially make things a bit more interesting. That means an extra set of tires can be used in this race, either an extra set of mediums or an extra set of hards. I feel like the hard tire is much better around this track. The medium tire can be an absolute nightmare after about 7 or 8 laps, and you want to stretch it for quite a bit to make sure it's performing optimal. So there's that. I feel like it's going to be a medium hard or a medium anywhere in the second or third stint potentially, but I feel like it's definitely going to be a 2 stint on hard tires to make sure these drives are going to be as quick as possible. Marios just went into second place. He's made quite the improvement. Just ahead of his teammates into the front row he goes, still over 1.5 tenths away from Tristan, who's on an outlap at the moment. Damien Carril, of course, having slotted it into P4. Scott Holmes found an improvement as well, up to P7. Philippe Sousa has improved to 4th place right there, 8.370. Not too shabby, but also still quite a ways away. And we're just waiting for our provisional pole sitters to start his hot lap to see how he manages to get around this track so quickly. We've seen some wall banging, some hairpin drifting as well. And I feel like we're going to see that from this man too. He's using a special Haas livery here tonight, as many drivers like to pick the fanciest livery of the lot. I believe Neil is going to follow suit. Who should we follow for this hot lap, Aro?
I'm currently on board with Scott Holmes, who's about to finish a lap, but he had a scruffy run through pool and is into the pit lane. But we do have Alexei on a lap, as he's actually made a mistake as I went on board with him there. He locked up into the hairpin, was trying to drift the rear, but just went deep, and I don't think he's going to improve by much on this lap. But Felipe Sousa not on a lap. I do think Neil Gu and Tristan Janssen are the two that are on a lap at the moment. But Neil exiting the tunnel section and down the hill, heavy braking through the Novell chicane. Such a tricky corner where so much time can be gained and lost as he heads through to back. And you sometimes use that outside wall just to get the car rotated as he heads through pole, and actually tips the inside wall before brushing that outside wall as well. And it does say he has a purple middle sector, but we'll see as he rounds the final corner. how much he actually improves by is Gianluca up to P2, just 400 shy of Tristan, as Neil is now 300 shy of Gianluca. But Tristan comes into the box. He must have made a mistake on his lap. Meanwhile, we also have Thomas Laminen in P10. He's up by a 10th, and he's entering to back corner now. And interesting to see what kind of walls the drivers use, because you can gain time using the walls, but as we've seen from Thomas there, he didn't gain and invalidated on that run. But I do think Alex Santana is the next around in the Aston Martin to back again, although I think he's going slow, so I think Alex is backing out.
It's a struggle for some drivers. Dennis Kamensky has retired as well. 3 drivers already out of qualifying. Only 12 remain, and we haven't even started the race. That is promising something for the race. Alex, though, is on a struggle. He's the man in 3rd in the championship at the moment, and things are not going his way. Alexi Covero, same story, only P8. This is for the both of them a big opportunity to eat a lot out of the lead of our championship leader Lewis Bloor, who isn't present tonight. But so far, P8 and P12 isn't going to bring a whole lot of points to the table, especially P12. It's actually going to bring none of any points of any sort to the table. Damien Carrillo through the first sector, 1.5 tenths quicker. Some drivers trying to do 2 laps on the same set of tires, with Damien now following suit once again through turns 10 and 11. Tricky chicane to get right, but Damien appears to be quite on top of it. He's currently still 4 tenths away. Once again, banging the wall. Whoa, look at that. That's a huge improvement in Sector 2. Almost 4 tenths quicker. And that could potentially mean we might see a new provisional pole sitter after nearly 15 minutes of short qualifying here. Through the final few corners he goes onto the main straight. Last few meters of the track right here. Is it going to be enough? No, it's not. He misses out by about half a tenth. 2 milliseconds behind his own teammate. And McLaren is looking strong tonight. But still, Tristan Janssen on top. Nobody's been able to touch his original lap time set on the first hot lap.
Yeah, brilliant lap there from Damien. What I will say about this evening's races I've noticed is that it's a very topsy-turvy grid. Tristan Janssen, who does lead the field, he's in P13 in the standings. Gianluca, P5. Damien, who just jumped up there, he's P10. Neil's P17. Marius, I couldn't even find on the standings, so our top 5 are not even anywhere near the top 4, really. Only Gianluca is the only driver who's inside that top 5. So it really is a topsy-turvy grid here. And this could change the standings for the remainder of the season in a big way, with so many drivers missing out. And not only the drivers missing out, but even the drivers who are up there in the standings, they're down at the back. Alex Santana, who you mentioned, is P3 in the championship. He's down in P12 and has not looked on pace at all today.
No, let's see if he can find something, because he needs more than 1 second on his next run to make sure he gets onto pole position. That's going to be a tall order. He's now done 2 runs. One of them invalidated. This is, I believe, is still his original lap time from the first run, at 9.042. So he's going to have to find a lot of now. The track having been evolved by quite a bit by this point, so let's hope that will work to his advantage. We're now headed toward the final few runs of all these drivers. 3 minutes remain. The pit lane is slowly emptying of all the 12 remaining drivers still there. Marius is going to be the first to set his final lap time. He's opted for the original Ferrari livery, by the way, as you can see right here. There's also, I just noticed, no Saubers present tonight. They are not with us in this particular round. But Marius Ioanu is going to be the first to go across the line. And then sooner or later, we'll know. Can Tristan retain his provisional pole position? Can either of the McLarens do something about it? Perhaps Neil still as well. They're all within that 1/10 of a second here. And then that means we're going to see a 1:07 potentially.
Yeah, what I will say is Tristan hasn't improved on his banker, which I'm really surprised to see. So Tristan, you would imagine, still has loads of time in hand. So could Tristan even grab a big improvement here in this final run? We're still yet to see that, or I think he'd be disappointed if he only really gets this lap done on his banker. But as you mentioned, Marius, the current driver, out on a push lap. He's down the hill and entering the tunnel now. And he's currently a 1/10.5 off pole, but as he heads down the hill, at the Novell chicane. How much is he improving by? It's in validation. And I don't know if he has enough time to...
I think he has, but...
have enough time to get in and out again, but he seems to be... I don't think he will actually have. He's absolutely wrestling that car around, but Tristan Janssen has started what should be his final run as he heads up the hill right before Casino.
Let's have a little look at him. I was just watching Lucas Shea. He's done an extra outlap right there already. Tristan is up 1/10 of a second in the first sector alone. That is looking quite promising, but I think there's a bit of traffic ahead. It's one of the Alpines. Thomas Laminen there. I think he's on an outlap as Marius Ioannou has retired. Cannot get another run done anymore, and that means P5 is going to be his best run for the time being. Thomas Laminen is on a hot lap as well. You can see him throwing the car right there through turn 10 and 11 in the background. You can see Tristan Janssen approaching fast. So far, the top 5 has remained unchanged. Lucas Shea still in P6. Philippe Sousa still in P7. Purple middle sector for Thomas Laminen. Is it true or is it not true? We'll soon know. Tristan Janssen will once again show up in the background somewhere, and he's getting a penalty for a collision with Diego Ferrer, and I think that might mean a lobby restart. And there is Thomas Laminen, as well as Neil Guillot, going into the 1:07, and Tristan Janssen is done for. He is done for with a penalty and perhaps already damaging his car. Qualifying is over for him by a slow-going Racing Bull. That is huge disappointment. And most likely a lobby restart. He's already apologizing in the chat, but I feel like he was on a hot lap. And it might actually be the Racing Bull's fault, but that does mean, surprise, surprise, Thomas Laminen from way down there finds himself in provisional pole, but it's not over yet. I believe some drivers still on their final run. Philippe Sousa, half a tenth down on his original time there. And is he going to find an improvement here? He does actually improve by 0.2 of a second, goes up to P8. Lucas Shea, I believe, is still on his way as well, but he's much slower through the middle sector already. I believe Scott Holmes, yeah, there he is, the only other Haas remaining on track. Now onto the main straight, is about to cross the line right there, goes up to P9, 1 minute 8.299. That is very unfortunate, not good enough for pole position at all. And that means, I think, qualifying is over by this point. Bit of an anti-climax there, but a surprise pole setter nonetheless in Thomas Laminen.
Yeah, Jean-Luc is still on lap, but he's down, and I don't think he'll be improving. But Thomas on pole ahead of Damien, who did improve there to P2. Meanwhile, Neil, I was on board with Neil as he did his lap, and he lost the rear massively through to back, and I am so shocked to see him improve to P3 because he absolutely lost the rear through to back, smashed the wall, and somehow still improved his lap by a tenth. If you had seen what happened in Neil's car, you would agree with me. But Neil somehow in P3, but a brilliant lap there from Thomas Laminen on pole here. But Tristan Janssen, as you mentioned, got that grid penalty, which may lead us to a lobby restart. And we'll have to see what the stewards decide.
Yep. Already the host saying, I guess we restart. I think it is. That's what happens normally. I think this penalty is absolutely not Tristan's fault. He was on a hot lap, and Diego, I believe, wasn't. He's already apologized in the chat for the incident, and I think it's only fair that the penalty is going to be removed from him.
Yeah, very annoying for Tristan. Could have been on for pole, and considering Tristan's P13 in the standings, this could be a massive race for him if he were able to win. But even if there is a lobby restart, he'll be starting from P4. That makes his life a little bit more difficult. And Thomas Laminen, who's currently P6 in the standings, could potentially jump up massively here and even take the lead of the championship with Lewis Bloor not being here.
Yeah, it does give us a little bit of time soon to check the standings a bit extra and have a little bit of a look at the potential changes coming up. Because, of course, it's still early in the season, meaning that the standings can easily shake up a lot after a race such as this. You were absolutely spot on by saying that a lot of the drivers on the top of the grid tonight are nowhere near the championship lead at the moment, but it could very easily change. We'll have our tentative start here, of course, under dry conditions. You can already see some drivers opting to take the drive-through. He's already disqualified there with Lucas Shea having a collision with the other Haas. A lot of drivers retiring immediately, which is always good to see. Let's hope they'll all retire. Oh, there! Wow, that's a huge crash there by the Red Bull. with the safety car coming out already. Speaking of the safety car, Aro, I can't fail but have noticed in the past few years that a safety car around this track is insanely rare in this game. Now, I saw in the chat by somebody saying that it has been fixed in this game, but I've yet to see evidence of that as well. Can we expect a safety car in Monaco tonight?
Does PSGL use standard safety car or
Reduced?
Is it reduced? Yeah, I think there's a no chance on reduced. I have not seen a safety car in Monaco in quite some years. You only see it in real life. On this game, it is immensely rare. I'll also mention Lucas Shea. That is probably the quickest disqualifications I've ever seen in my life. I don't think. I didn't know you could get disqualified that early. That was impressive. I think he might have the world record for how quickly you can get disqualified. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting race. If there were any drivers saving tires, I don't think there were. But everyone will get a fresh set of tires. You don't really use the softs around it here anyway. But as you mentioned before, I actually forgot it was a mandatory 2-stop. That does change the dynamic. You may see some drivers pitting on lap 1 just to get one of them out of the way very early. So we'll have to see what the drivers end up doing.
Tire wear, of course, is a huge factor in this game. Once they go over a certain threshold, they will just massively slow down, become incredibly slippery. And I can see some people in the Discord already complaining about a lack of grip for some reason. And of course, with the hard being the most durable tire, it will have the least grip. You want to keep that tire under control. So you want to use it at most for like, I think 12 or perhaps 13 laps twice. And then you have, well, no, that's actually not true. You'll have to use it for much longer than that. You'll have to use it for maybe even 14, perhaps 15 laps. And then 8 laps on the mediums at most. Otherwise, they'll turn really, really bad. That's only speaking from my experience, and I'm nowhere near being a pro driver, of course. Maybe they've got entirely different opinions here. But yeah, those tires are going to be crucial. Like I said, a double set of hard tires is the most logical choice. But perhaps somebody's going to try and be brave on the mediums.
Yeah, I think the pit window will be maybe even as early as lap 4. You might see a lot of drivers getting off very early off the mediums. I think if drivers had their way today, they would want to do a hard, but with that other mandatory pit stop, I think they're forced into using the mediums. I think if you see anyone in the softs to start this race, that is the indicator that they're going to want to box lap 1. I don't really see anyone want to do more than 1 lap on the softs. You may see someone try maybe 3 laps on the softs, but I think that is their limit on this track because it is a really tough track on tires. But it'll be interesting to see what strategies they go for.
Yep, they're already readying up, so props to Lucas for fixing the grid this quickly. Tristan will therefore be starting from his 4th position, even though he probably would have liked a lot more than that. I feel like he could have been in pole position, suggesting by his speeds in the 1st and 2nd sector, and then of course the incident with Diego happened. And that means his 4th position is the best he can get. So then, Thomas Laminen will be your pole sitter tonight. What can he do from there? Of course, he'll have no cars in front of him, unless there's a safety car out there immediately. He'll have free, clean air to go through. That should make his life a lot more easy. It will be exciting for him, though. Once the pit stop rounds come along, he'll have to time it perfectly, make sure he doesn't get undercut, which is, of course, more easily said than done. And then he could very well drive to his first victory of the season. Let's have one quick look at the standings to know where we are at the moment before we get back to the race, which is going to start very soon as they are going to pick their tires. You can see there Alexi and Alex, 2nd and 3rd. They're a bit further down on the grid tonight. Nando isn't present this time round. Gianluca Nolfo has done quite well. He is the only top 5 driver to have qualified pretty strongly. Then there's Thomas Laminen right behind him, 1 point down on him at the moment. If he wins tonight, he'll be on 31 points, and that means he'll be your championship leader. If Gianluca Nolfo, Alex, and Alexi, of course, don't score bigger points here. So let's see what will happen.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting one. I just it is so complex what strategies they go for. It'll be really interesting. As you mentioned, it'll be reduced safety car. So I think if we see a safety car it'll be very surprising. I definitely think we'll probably see a VSC of some sort, but the safety car actually leaving the box, I don't think we'll witness today, unfortunately. But you never know. I think some drivers will try and time both their pit stops to basically happen whenever the VSC does come out, which I think always can happen at Monaco. No matter what level you're at, it's always a risk for the VSC to come out with someone clipping off a front wing. No matter how good the drivers are, they always can lose that little bit of concentration and clip a wing off, and that could potentially bring a VSC out. But we'll have to see, as there'll be 39 laps around the Monaco circuit here in PSGL F4.
Yep, we're just waiting for the lights to get red and then green, of course. They'll be heading for 39 laps of Monaco racing. 15 drivers are going to try and take the win tonight. Of course, both Mercedes drivers not qualified whatsoever. Denis Kamensky, having retired very early on, will be starting from 13th position. The other 12 having tried to qualify as best as possible. And here we are. We're going to find out whether Thomas Leminen keeps pole position in turn 1. No heroics incentive, of course. And here we go for the 4th round of the season. Already some things have happened. DRS, for some reason, is immediately enabled. Gianluca Nolfo, I believe there's something going on. He's already on lap 2 for some strange reason. Thomas Leminen is, according to the tracker at least, behind, but he's still leading the race. There's some strange shenanigans going on. I hope it isn't impacting their race. Maybe it's just on our end, a glitch here and there somewhere, a graphical glitch perhaps. There's some chaos going on right here. Tristan Janssen trying to defend his position, and against Gianluca Nolfo, at least that one is correctly displayed. We're also back on lap 1, thankfully. Everything is fixed. No blue flags. It's still flashing there. That's just, I think, a glitch from our side. At least I hope it is. Thomas Leminen therefore leads the race from Damien Carril, Neil Guillaume, Gianluca Nolfo having made up a place, and he's now just behind the Ferrari driver. Tristan Janssen trying to keep up there with the McLaren, trying to steal his position back, only if you have seriously fresher tires. And in the background, huge drama between both Aston Martins as they just crash into each other. Alex Santana, Dennis Kamensky having a nightmare start. Neo is now stuck behind the both of them. From our point of view, it looks like he might have got damage as well. No, he hasn't. He just overtook Dennis Kamensky with great ease. But they are now falling back fast. And they're going to have to pit the both of them, as well as Neo. 3 drivers in the pit lane already at the end of lap 1. Drama, therefore, in the back of the field for no points whatsoever. And they are going to swap to the next set of tires already. Will it benefit them later down the line? Let's find out.
Both Aston Martins have retired in the pit lane already.
Wow. Yeah, it's I'm not sure what happened between them. I believe one of the Aston Martins had a bad corner entry, the other had a good one and just crashed into the side of the other one. I'm not sure which one was which. It happened that fast. Alex Santana is going to rue this night. This is going to be costly for his championship hopes. He was 3rd in the standings. He might very well soon be P6 with Gianluca and Thomas doing quite well out there. Thomas still the race leader, of course. Gianluca having potentially made up a crucial position for some extra points. Now in 4th place. And Neo, the man now far behind. It looks like our timing sheet have finally fixed itself. For a moment, it looked like Gianluca and Tristan were about a minute down on the other cars. Thankfully, that is no longer the case, and therefore DRS now opens properly for the first time. As we head into lap 3, Damien Carril, no, never mind, Tristan Janssen now with the fastest lap of the race. Just showing that he's still got the pace to try and get past, but I think this is going to be a waiting game for Tristan. He might want to try the undercut to regain the position. He might feel he still owns up.
Yeah, I think what happened between Dennis and Alex is I seen them exit as Neo has sped into the pit lane. Not sure, maybe he's getting his pit stops out of the way. No, he's just retired from the session, as well as Alessandro Finn went deep into the hairpin, almost got damage himself. But Alex Santana had damage before even entering the tunnel, and I think Dennis went for a massive send into the Nouvelle chicane, even though he seemed to be carrying damage as well. So maybe they were bumping and barging the whole of lap 1. We only really seen them as they made contact through the Nouvelle chicane, and both of them with big damage, essentially ending both their races. But Aston Martin sure are going to have a word after the race. What happened there? A bigger capitulation than we've seen Alpine have a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's a bit of a repeat from that moment. Lucas Shea is now going into the pit lane. Let's have a little look at the tire choices. Most of them have decided to opt for the medium tires. Only 3 have decided to go for the hard tires. Scott Holmes, Damien Carrillo, and Thomas Laminen, your 2 race leaders, are actually on the hard tires as well. Lucas Shea has decided to already go and ditch his mediums to go for the hards. He's taken your advice to hard arrow, and there he goes. And now let's see what ground he can make up. He was stuck in the long train of DRS. Now he's on his own. He's got a lot of clear air. Can keep the engine and tires as cool as possible. And potentially make up a lot of ground there. Meanwhile, Alessandro Finn is trying to stay connected to this group. It appears he's struggling a little bit to stay within DRS range. Of course, his teammate has already retired from the race. And Alessandro Finn is therefore on the verge of scoring points. But both him and Diego are about a second behind the next car in front of them, and that is spelling trouble for them. If they lose connection here, it's going to be a long race for the both of them.
Yeah, also what we missed is Tristan Janssen lost a position to Alexi Vero on the main straight. Not quite sure if Tristan made a mistake there, but into turn 1, Alexi got through on the Haas driver, so he was so strong in qualifying. Surprising to see Tristan struggle this much in the race. He's lost 2 positions off the start as we see 4 drivers come into the box here on lap 5.
Including Gianluca Nolfo, one of the drivers potentially up for a win tonight. He's at least fighting with Thomas Laminen for the championship lead, and he knows it. This, he thinks, is going to be the perfect strategy to undercut the rest of the drivers still in the mediums. That's only 4 of them remaining. Neil Gio, Alexi Cavero, Tristan Janssen, and Marius Ioanu still going around on those mediums. They're still connected to the top 2 on the hard tires. That means they want to keep going round. But Alexi Cavero, though, has lost DRS to the next car. Of course, some cars in between himself and the next few cars having moved out of the way for a pit stop, including Gianluca Nolfo. And now he's falling back quite rapidly. 1.4, 1.7 seconds. The gap is hovering in between those lap times right there. And we'll soon see some more drivers going for a pit stop. I think Neil doesn't want to wait too long to make his pit stop as well. Otherwise, he's going to lose a position potentially against the other McLaren. And in he goes indeed. Will the rest follow suit? No. The other 3 medium driver, except for Marius Ioanu, have opted to carry on. 2 drivers remain on the mediums. The other 2 having come in now. We'll have to keep an eye on them to see what their position is going to be compared to the McLaren driver, Gianluca Nolfo, as he comes around the final 3 bends. Turn 18, turn 19 now. It's Neil already at the pit exit, but Gianluca is going to carry a lot more speed. A lot of wheel spin there for the Ferrari. What's going to happen here? It looks like Neil is still ahead of Gianluca Nolfo. The gap remains more or less the same. So 1 lap isn't really going to do a whole lot of undercutting, but perhaps 2 laps will.
Yeah, that was a terrific in-lap there from Neil Gio and gets out a second ahead of Gianluca, who now has a lap extra hards on his McLaren. But surprising to see not really more undercuts. Mario seems to be the only driver that was majorly undercut there. He's down now in P11. But,
that's because they were double stacking. They've made a communication error, the Ferrari drivers, and that's cost Mario's a lot, I'm afraid.
I will say I did watch Neil's in-lap, and you could see visibly struggling in behind the 2 leading harders of Damien and Thomas. He was going deep at certain corners, bumping the wall. So I think not only was it, I think it was really just the tires were already gone there on 6 laps on those mediums, that he kind of needed to come in regardless. But he has cost his teammate as a result because of them double stacking. And Marius now trying to get onto the rear of Diego Ferrer back into DRS range as Alessandro Finn sets the fastest lap. But I heard a big crunch to the wall there. Not quite sure who that was.
I'm not sure. I'm currently following both Haas drivers. We're now seeing Tristan and Scott right behind one another. Scott is now a lot faster than his teammate. Are they going to try and do the swap here? I'm afraid Tristan has got his own race to mind, and I don't think he wants to move out of the way for his teammate just yet. And I think he's going to have to pit this lap. They are really slower, much slower than the hard tire drivers at the moment, and they'll be insanely much slower than those on the fresher hard tires. Alexi Cavero is still ahead of Tristan right here. And if they don't pit this lap, they'll see their chances for victory disappear out of the window unless they've got some kind of master plan in their mind. And there they go. In they go for their pit stops after 7 laps of using the medium tires. In they go for the fresh set. Let's see what the difference is going to be between Alexi here and Neil, who's just going around the final corner. Alexi is still a long way away, and he's still ahead of Tristan Janssen, of course, in the pit lane. Neil goes through with the fastest lap of the race. Same goes for Gianluca Nolfo. He is now behind the Ferrari driver, and potentially Neil Guillot is going to be your race leader after the top 2 are pitted as well. In fact, the top 3 it is right now, because Scott Holmes is still out there on the hards. And they are now your 3 race leaders. Are they going to hope for a safety car? Perhaps they are, but they've definitely got an alternate strategy in mind compared to the rest.
I did mention before the start of the race that Neil Gay was one of the favourites, and now he's in absolute prime position. He's in P4. He's got so much clear air ahead of him. 11 seconds. Meanwhile, Alexi and Tristan are on the freshest hards, but now they're caught in this train behind Felipe Sousa and Lucas Shea as well. And maybe Alexi could get ahead of his teammate, but Lucas Shea is not going to be a happy camper. He's not going to let them through, as Diego Ferrer picks up the first 3-second time penalty of the day. But Lucas Shea is going to really hurt Alexi and Tristan's strategy here, unless they can try and somehow make their way through. But I think the race win does come down to it will be Thomas, Damien, or Neil at this point.
Yeah, it's still a little bit difficult to predict, I think. Of course, there's still going to be a second pit stop. We shouldn't forget that one, as Gianluca Nolfo is going to hurt his victory chances even more by picking up a 3-second time penalty. That is painful for the man who could potentially take the championship lead. He's going to have to perform well, and this is really not going to help him at all. So now Neil's even in a bigger prime position for victory tonight. A bit of a drift through the hairpin. You don't want that in the race. Qualifying, no problem. You can just destroy your tires. But in the race, you want to conserve them at least a little bit, especially now that they've all pitted early to ditch the mediums. And now they're going to have to make their way on the hard tires for quite a long time. We're only on lap 9, remember. And there's still 3 drivers out on their original set of hard tires. They're going to make them last until, I'd say, about lap 15-ish if they want to keep it all in proper working order. You can also see Scott Holmes. He's faster than both our race leaders. He's been gaining lap after lap. His gap is down by another 0.2 of a second compared to the previous lap at this position. Now down to about 3-ish seconds, 2.9 through some corners there. He's definitely pushing hard to try and catch up with the both of them. It's Neil who's already shrunk down the gap by another 2 seconds to the Haas ahead. And it's Gianluca who can't follow. He's lost a lot of time since his pit stop to those hard tires. Even if he pitted a lap earlier, he's slower than the Ferrari. And I think you're right. Neil has been unleashed.
Felipe Sousa trying to put pressure on Lucas Shea, but surely the Red Bull's going to think we've got to swap positions because Alexi has got better tires than Felipe. He'll make this move easier just because of the tire difference. But Felipe is all over the rear of Lucas Shea. But I think they're wasting time trying to let Felipe fight this out. I think Alexi would make a short work of Lucas, and then Felipe could maybe try. But considering there's only a lap difference between Felipe and Lucas, it's going to be difficult to try and get past. Surely the Red Bull's got to think about swapping an Alexi with a penalty. Frustrated in behind his teammate. That's not going to help the Red Bull drivers here at all.
No, I saw it happen. That corner cut was just a little bit too much there. Of course, it's like I said, it's so easy to just cut the corner by a millimeter too much, and then the game will think, no, you cut that by way too much. That's a warning or a penalty for you right there. And there we are. Alexi now with a 3-second penalty to his name. Both contenders in the top 3 of the championship are struggling tonight. Alex is out already. Alexis is stuck with a 3-second time penalty. He's also stuck behind 2 cars on older tires. He can't find a way past Felipe Sousa. Is now the man to try and make the move on Lucas Shea. He's been given the hurry up, perhaps by his team, and now he's dropped down a little bit. It's Alexi once again trying to get onto the outside, but it's just not possible. This is Monaco racing for you, ladies and gentlemen. There's no way past still, as his left front tire just lifts up a little bit, doesn't turn around anymore. And Alexi getting more and more frustrated behind his own teammate. Still no Red Bull swap happening just yet. Felipe Sousa charging his batteries. He gonna go for a dive here? He was certainly thinking about it. Had a bit of flick on the steering wheel, but he's still right behind both of these drivers. drivers. I feel like once Alexi gets ahead, he should perhaps make short work of Lucas Shea, but it's still not happening yet. In the background, Tristan Janssen having caught back up to these 3 drivers with Diego Ferrer, Marius Ioanu in tow, as well as Alessandro Finn, as Diego Ferrer picks up another 3-second time penalty. Not his day tonight. And once again, Alexi Guevara all over the back of his teammate with the straight line speed and the dirty air is really not helping him whatsoever. And he's going to have to try a brilliant exit here at turn 1. No, still no opportunities yet. It is a struggle here for the Finn tonight.
Yeah, it looks like Alexei is getting absolutely frustrated. I mean, his teammate Felipe had an opportunity to overtake him as they headed down the hill at Mirabeau, but Felipe was not giving him any room, as we see Felipe hit the wall there slightly at Mirabeau, just the rear tire tapping. If that were real life, the rear tire maybe snapped off, but luckily we're just in a game at the moment. But Alexei, through every corner, you can see he's trying to push his teammate on, or even try and get ahead of his teammate, but it seems no team orders at Red Bull. As it currently stands, as Tristan loses the rear down the Nouvelle Chicane, almost collecting. Alexei does a save that we've seen of Guan Yu Zhou there a year or two ago, but a major save from the Haas driver to not collect the Red Bulls there.
That was scary. I think he was caught off guard by Alexi braking a little bit earlier than he had expected, and having to brake a bit more hard, so to say, than he would have initially liked. And now, once again, look at how close they are every time they get into the main straight. But then Felipe just pulls away, and Alexi has to sit behind again. And Tristan Janssen is now properly applying the pressure to the second Red Bull. And he's got to, because behind him there's still some other eager drivers. Diego, for example, despite his penalty, still eager to get past on his 8-lap-old hard tires. Marios and Alessandro, same story there. And at the top 3 in the meanwhile, it's Scott Holmes, who's got the top 2 firmly in his sight right now. The gap down to 1.5 seconds between himself and Damien. He is absolutely flying despite those 12-lap-old hard tires. 5 seconds behind. It is our soon-to-be race leader, Neil Guillot. Gianluca Nolfo is another about 5.5 seconds back. He doesn't have the race pace that Neil has. And then there's another 4.3 seconds to Lucas Shea with a whole slew of cars in tow at the moment, trying to keep them all behind. He's doing a stellar job at that, of course, being helped by the narrowness of the track, no less there. And that is how it stands at the moment. We're reaching the halfway point sooner or later in this race. We're now lap 14 of 39. 3 drivers on the original set of hard tires will soon come in for their first pit stop. The others have already made 1 stop, and they are fighting for position on track.
Yeah, I will say this is definitely not the day for team play. Felipe being held up, or Felipe holding up his teammate, Alexei, and then we also seen Dennis and Alex Santana, the 2 Aston Martin drivers, come together, essentially putting each other out of the race with big damage. They would both retire in the pit lane, so we haven't seen much teamwork today at all. It just seems like the drivers are out there racing for themselves. But currently, the race win looks like it could be going 4 ways between 4 different teams. Tomas, Damien, Scott, Holmes, and Neil seem to be all the favourites. Scott has quietly creeped his way back up to the rear of Damien and could even pull off an undercut at any point, but it's Damien who's pulled the pin on the undercut, coming off the hard tires here and on to mediums, which I believe is the right strategy. You don't really want to end. You don't really want to end the race on the medium tires. I feel like you want to be able to stretch your final tire as long as possible. And I feel like the mediums can fall off way too early, but Damien now is going to enter some traffic, which may hurt him. He's in an absolute gaggle of cars, and Damien exits as Alessandro Finn hits the wall at Saint-Devote in behind. But now Damien, this is the thing with Neil's strategy. He's still got clear air. Meanwhile, Damien on this medium strategy now has got to somehow navigate his way through the traffic, and he's also got the Ferrari of Marius, who I'm sure is going to want to help Neil defend his potential win if the race goes his way. So have the drivers who start on the hards made the wrong choice trying to pull us off, but Damien gets a monster exit as we exit on the tunnel, already ahead of Marius even before the Nouvelle Chicane. But Diego Ferrer struggling the most, it seems, today, picking up another 3-second time penalty as Damien pressuring him. Oh, a big contact with the wall does Diego, but Damien putting a lot of pressure under the V-carb, and the V-carb just backs out after going wide and missing the corner entirely there. Damien looks lightning on the mediums, and he's made overtaking look easy around the Monaco circuit.
Yeah, I have to say though, despite him being stuck in the worst amount of traffic you can imagine, I mean, he's come up literally in the worst possible position apart from being behind Alessandro perhaps. He's making short work of the lot of them. He's already approaching the back of Tristan Janssen quickly. One of the drivers he was fighting with for victory, and I'm sure he's going to make short work of these 4 cars as well. I'm following on board, which is an absolutely brilliant point of view to watch with the driver on the tires this much quick. He's nearly going around the outside of Tristan in the hairpin. There he goes. Absolutely stunning. The difference between these tires is literally day and night here in nighttime Monaco. And off he goes. Tristan Janssen has already been dealt with. Next up, the frustrated Alexi Cavero, still stuck behind Felipe Sousa and Lucas Shea. He's already there. Look at that through the chicane. He's getting about 3 car lengths all the way up to the gearbox of the Red Bull, the first of the 2 Red Bulls. Is he going to find his way past in Raskas turn 17? He's so much quicker than the rest, but what is Alexi going to do? Is he going to defend hard? He's certainly trying to, but he's got no choice. Round the outside, and up next is Felipe Sousa. It's like they do not exist. That is how easily he passes them. Felipe Sousa is going to have to try and defend, but how well is that going to work? So much more grip on those fresh mediums for Damien Carril. No room yet, though. Felipe Sousa defends as well against the McLaren, as he did against his teammate, but the sliding to the outside, and off he goes. Well done to Damien. Another overtake. Done and dusted. And now Lucas Shea finds himself with the fast-going Damien Carril. He's just eating them up left, right, and center. Is he going to go for another overtake in the hairpin? A rare thing to see indeed. But with the tire difference this fast, it's like it's absolute easy work. It's like we're watching an F1 car overtake F2 cars, and off he goes into the top 5. He's now got a load of clear air to his next teammate, but he's already used up 2 laps of his fragile medium tires.
That is one of the most brilliant overtaking showcases I've ever seen in my entire life. Damien cut his way through the field like a hot knife through butter. Some of the most spectacular overtakes I've ever seen, especially in Monaco. Up the hill at Casino on Felipe Sousa was insane. On the outside of the hairpin, on I'm not even quite sure it was anymore. I don't even remember at this point. It might have been Lucas Shea. But Thomas Lavin now battling with Lucas Shea, and Thomas going a couple laps extra actually avoids this traffic. So this can help Thomas massively.
Yeah, how did he do that? I mean, Damien Carril was only just behind Thomas, like a few tenths, and just look at how much difference it's made. And Scott Holmes is stuck in the traffic. He's already, or at least he's trying to clear the first Red Bull. Alexi Cavero, off he goes, round the outside in the hairpin. Another impressive move pulled off there. Let's see if he can repeat what we saw with Damien Carril. Up next, now Felipe Sousa. It's like we're watching a repeat, but it's a white car instead of an orange one. Is he going to go for a dive in the Nouvelle chicane? No, because Felipe is actually defending against a much, much quicker Haas. So it looks like Scott Holmes is taking it a bit more careful than Damien did. Damien was so incredibly confident, and as you can see there, Lucas Shea hitting the wall on those ancient hard tires, which are really not cooperating anymore. Scott Holmes is taking a much more careful approach, or is he? Is he going to try around the outside? Switch back to the inside? No, actually, he's lucky that Felipe moves out of the way for his second pit stop of the race. He's going to have to make the other hard tires last for 20 laps, which is going to be really, really difficult. I think he was already struggling on, what was it, 13, 14 lap old hard tires there. Lucas Shea making no problem at all of Scott Holmes overtaking here. And up he goes into P5, but look at how much time he's lost. He was up to the back of Damien Carril, and now he is 5.7 seconds behind that same McLaren.
The definite biggest benefactor from this whole ordeal has been Thomas Lannon. He just overcut and missed that entire train of cars, and he's got 3-lap fresher mediums than Damien Carril, who had to put on one of the best overtaking displays we've ever seen, but it might have been all in vain because he's used up so much of his tires, and that may allow Tomas just to close up to the back of him as the laps progress. But I'm honestly rooting for Damien here. I hope he can pull this up, because It was such a beautiful thing to watch as he overtook so many cars there.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, Alexei finally got his way, tried to attack Lucas Shea, but by this time, both their tires are dead, and Lucas Shea just pulls into the pit lane. So all the work that Alexei could have done has been made undone. And now he's going to have to fight with Tristan Janssen on equally old hard tires for position number 6. Not something he wanted to see at all. Neither does Tristan Janssen. They are far away from any chance of victory. In the meanwhile, Neil Guillot is pretty much in heaven, 8.5 seconds away from the man in second, who is now being approached by his teammates already. Damien Carril, let's see how fresh his tires still are. He's certainly still a lot quicker than the 15-lap old hard tires. Despite his tires already past prime, it looks like Gianluca is going to make no big deal. Look at that. That is teamwork. The first proper bit of teamwork we've seen all night here after the disaster between the Aston Martins, the Ferraris and the Red Bulls. It's now McLaren who put their teamwork game on top of it, and off Damien goes, potentially trying to chase down Neil Guillot. It's going to take a lot of strategy and strength to pull that one off, though. Now it's Thomas Lemon, and then of course Gianluca is not going to move out of the way of this car. He knows Damien wants to win the race. He knows Thomas Lemon was the race leader, and now is going to try or die perhaps for Thomas Lemon. And no, of course not. He's going to take it easy, but he's got now the chance to get past. Side by side they go. What is Gianluca Nolfa going to do? He's got no choice with a slot in behind and allow Thomas Laminen to disappear into the distance as well. But now, though, the gap between the two race leaders, the ex-race leaders, I should say, now about 1.1 seconds. No more DRS then, temporary for Thomas Laminen, as he does get back into it through the hairpin. He appears to be got a bit more race pace than Damien does, so a strong performance from him there. Diego Ferrer retires on track, and that is a virtual safety car. Who's going to benefit from this? I'd say Neil is.
Yeah, Neil can go hard to the end along with Jean-Luc and Tristan, who've all yet to box. Will the VSC stay out long enough? We will see. Will anyone else try go onto the hards under this VSC? I think it's a gamble worth taking. Even if you're Damien, who's only done 6 laps on the mediums, I think this is the time to come in off the hards. And if you're Thomas, you surely got to follow Damien in, you would think.
This is going to be interesting. Let's see what happens. No, actually, look at that. Neil carries on for another lap. And, well, that explains why. The virtual safety car was really, really short. And off they go once again. A really, really short virtual safety car right there. I'm not sure why Diego retired on track. I don't think he crashed. I think he just retired there. Gianluca Nolfa, though, he does decide to pit for fresh tires. Of course, his tires are already 16 laps old. And there he goes onto his last set of tires for the remainder of the race. That is about 18 laps he needs to keep them alive for. And it's going to be quite a tough challenge, but this might be his chance to undercut quite a few drivers, depending on how long the rest stays out. Marius Ioanu gets past into P6. He's going to have to fight him with 5-lap fresher tires, which should definitely be possible. Not as easy as Damien had it, though, but definitely a possibility. In the meantime, Damien has now taken another 2 seconds out of the lead of Neil Guillot. So whether the winning strategy is medium hard medium or medium hard hard is yet to be determined.
Yeah, I was surprised not to see Neil come in there, but maybe Neil thinks he wants to take these tires a little bit longer, or maybe he has a set of mediums. I'd think everyone here is taking the harder tire allocation, but you have seen some drivers in the past make the mistake of taking just the medium tire allocation. But I think Neil just wants to take these hards a bit longer before he does swap onto another set of hards. I'm trying to think when the sweet spot is. Maybe lap 25 is when he wants to come off these current hards. But we will see. But Damien Carril now under pressure for Thomas Lannon and Scott Holmes, who did actually get a bit separated from the pack, has now finally got rejoined after having to work his way through the field. But now this race victory could go a multitude of ways. It seems anyone inside the top 4 could end up winning it, as Alexei does retire, and that is P2 in the championship gone from the race. So this race is really going to be topsy-turvy for the standings.
Just watching the Discord, I have it open next to my game screen, and Diego Ferrer actually says he got stuck on a curb. And he's not happy about it. But that is one way to retire. Now I understand why he retired on track. That is a perfectly legal reason to do so, by the way. Otherwise, you will just be a big man, a yellow flag menace, and you'll get disqualified anyway. So fair play to him, but a big shame. Even though his race was already ruined by his loads of penalties he had already. It's Neil Gio going in 2 laps after the virtual safety car ended for his next set of hard tires. His 3rd stint of the night. Off he goes, and now it's going to be racing until the end. Damien Carrillo and Thomas Laminen are back in the lead, 1 and 2. They've now swapped around. Of course, it was Thomas Laminen leading in the first stint. It's now Damien Carrillo leading in the second stint. But the tire difference is 3 laps in favor of Thomas Laminen, and he's really onto the back of the Dutchman now.
I'm a little bit surprised to not see Neil stay out another lap. If I were him, I would have tried to hold up everyone for an extra lap, which could have, in the end, helped him a little bit. But he clearly has a strategy set on lap 24 in for the Hards. He's now got a dispatch of Tristan Janssen as soon as possible. Going to look around the outside, down the hairpin, but not close enough. Maybe as we exit, Portier, can he get the run as Tristan loses the rear and already on the inside of the tunnel. Neil going to get straight through into P3, and now Neil is on the strategy at the end, and Damien and Thomas have got to keep that in check. They're both battling with each other, but they know Neil is on that different strategy, so they need to keep him in mind. And Damien going to come in just a lap after Neil on to possibly another set of hard tires. Meanwhile, Thomas going to extend a bit on. He had a bit more tires than Damien had to use, and Thomas is going to try and use as he does hit the wall there at Saint-Devote.
That was a hard hit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's got to add some extra damage to the tires there. That's really not going to help him, I'm afraid.
Yeah, with Gianluca on the rear of Marius as well as we head up the hill. Scott Holmes again has been caught in some traffic that he doesn't really want, as the McLaren driver of Gianluca on the inside. As we go side by side up Casino. Can Damien find a way through? He's going to poke his nose in. The McLaren doesn't want to leave him room, but Scott Holmes is going to force his way through. Big contact between the two. Gianluca really did not want to leave Scott any room there. Scott was desperately just trying to get a sniff at that position though, but Gianluca not allowing any gap there at all.
Yeah, Gianluca, of course, wants to get past Marius first, and then he's probably happy to battle just Scott Holmes. Not now, though. He wants to get rid of the Ferrari first. Tire difference, 5 laps at the moment. You can already see the difference there happening on your screen as we're watching Gianluca Nolfo on board. Thomas Laminen has decided to ditch his mediums as well after hitting the wall in turn 1. It's probably the best thing to do. Wow, Marius is struggling there through turn 16. To keep his car pointed in the right direction. Now, a good exit for Gianluca could help him get past. But you can see there, Marius is running away a bit too much. And even a 3/10 gap on a track like this is simply too big on a DRS straight to get past. All he needs is a strong exit. You can see there, Marius is charging the battery. Ferrari now lead 1 and 2. And Marius certainly isn't going to try and give up this easily, but he's got no choice. Barging through goes Gianluca Nolfo into second place. Scott Holmes wants to do the same thing before the hairpin happens, but Marius is still going to be there on the inside of the hairpin. Too wide they go into the hairpin, and Scott Holmes with the superior grip does get past after all. And now the Grandmaster of overtaking, Damien Carrillo, is up next against the Cypriot right there as they go through all the way to the Nivelle chicane. It's Damien Carrillo trying to go on the inside. We're watching it happening right here. Oh my goodness me! There was an airborne McLaren right there, and the safety car is out, as predicted by Alex Santana himself. The man who wanted to crash out for the safety car for fun has now gotten his way. And that is a penalty as well for Alessandro Finn. 10 seconds to his name. Neil stays out. He, of course, has no fresh tires, I think. I'm not sure how many sets of tires you actually get, and I think the rest is going to do the same thing. Marius, no, that's not everybody. It's Philippe Sousa who comes in, but that arrow, that crash was monumental. It's like there was a wall on the inside of the Nivelle chicane.
Yeah, I think Gianluca's car, I think he must have clipped the inside wall at the Nivelle chicane, and his tire just went absolutely flying, and so did the rest of his car. And I think, I can't even remember who was battling with him. Marius' seat may have turned brown as he seen that McLaren just flying through the air ahead of him. He was worried about a McLaren behind him, of Damien, who did make the move stick, but then he sees this McLaren of Gianluca absolutely soaring through the sky. But I was going to say, right before the safety car came out, I was about to say Neil has this in the bag because his tyres were not that different to Damien's and Thomas's, and he was about 10 seconds up the road after the pit stops. But now this safety car has really thrown a spanner in the works. Scott Holmes, who I would have to say has been unlucky the whole race with the traffic, but now he's in P2. The luck has swung his way, and now I think it is a very close fight. I think Marius on those 10-lap old hards won't be able to really help defend from Thomas for too long, so I think it will be a four-way fight for the win. What I will say is Gianluca, while battling with Marius, did pick up big damage there at Casino, which may have been partly the reason why he did crash at the Nouvelle Chicane. Wasn't able to compensate accurately for the damage that he did pick up, so that may have played a factor, but this is going to be
one of the most insane crashes I've ever seen, though. I remember I was talking about Monaco before we went live, and I was saying to you, this is Monaco. It's probably going to be quite boring. I think it's safe to say, I need to take back those words, and I'm going to say that this race might even be better than the race in Texas we saw 2 weeks ago, isn't it?
Yeah, this has been an exciting one. The overtaking that we've seen has been incredible, but what will be really interesting to see is everyone's roughly on the same tyres. Thomas Lamlin has the advantage, you would have to say, out of that top 5. But he is starting furthest back. But as the tyres get closer, it's harder and harder to overtake. Can Neil pull a gap to Scott Holmes, we will say, or we will see? Or could Scott find a way through? This really could go any way. It'll be a very interesting finale here. The safety car should be in this lap, and we should have 10 laps of racing here with Neil Gio getting us restarted.
Let's see how he's going to keep the rest behind. The drivers behind are pretty much in equally old tyres, except for Marius Ioanu, who is going to potentially be a sitting duck for the drivers behind. Philippe Sousa and Alessandro Finn have gone for an all-or-nothing approach in the back of the field. They will score points, but how many? That is the question. Those tyres will die in about 5 or 6 laps time, and they'll still have to get past everybody ahead of them. The win is going to be quite far away still, despite having the faster tyre, and off goes Neil Gio into the distance for the final bit of this race. There's still 10, 11 laps, I should say, of racing ahead of us in a Monaco race, which I personally didn't expect to be this brilliant. We've seen some extraordinary overtaking, some humongous drama and crashes all over the place. Lap 1 and 2 laps ago as well. Drivers taking risks, the strategies being either on point or an absolute nightmare. For example, for Thomas Lemon, and our pole sitter is now way out of podium contention. He's also stuck behind Mario's on much slower tires, and he's already about a second away from the top 3. Damien Carrillo is also appearing to be struggling, despite being brilliant on the medium stint, trying to keep up with the top 2. Scott Holmes is having an extraordinary race, having started from P9 on the grid. He's now on for a potential win. Whereas his teammate was actually fighting for pole position. Now he's fighting for the win, but he's gonna have to keep up with, we are safe to say, the master of Monaco, who's now in the lead of the race, trying to pull away from the Haas. Damien Carrillo is almost out of DRS. Marius Ioanu has got a whole slew of cars behind him. He's going to have to defend hard if he wants to keep that position. He's also got a penalty, which isn't helping him at all. Thomas Lemon is all over the back of him already as they head towards turn 1 for the remaining 10 laps of this race. Is Thomas going to get past? He doesn't have to if he wants to finish P4, but if he wants to finish on the podium, he's got to really hurry up. Here he goes, trying to go around the outside. No way past yet. Next opportunity into turn 5 perhaps. Needs to get a good exit right here. Does he get it? Not really, I have to be honest. He's gonna have to stay behind for another time there. Perhaps the hairpin then, a dive, which is risky. No way just yet. Tire difference 9 laps, and Marius is keeping his Ferrari really wide.
Yeah, Thomas frustrated in behind. He's got to make the move soon before he loses too much time to that top 3. And the gap already at 3 seconds. Thomas is going to do something to try and get ahead. Meanwhile, Tristan on the rear of Lucas Shea as well, putting pressure on the Alpine as the Alpine defending again. Surprised to see Lucas Shea not come in under that final safety car. But he's going to try and hold on to P6 here as best he can with Tristan all over the rear of him. But can Thomas now with DRS try and make this move on the Ferrari?
I saw Tristan there nearly going for a dive in turn 17 at Lucas Shea. It nearly worked, but it also nearly went terribly wrong. Thankfully, he backed out just in time, but that now means he's got Felipe Sousa all over the back of him. And I think it was that last pit stop, the choice between doing it or not doing it, was a choice between two evils. And there goes Thomas Lamminen. Let me continue talking about those pit stops in a moment, because he's trying to get past finally, but already the top 3 is too far away. Marius is trying to go around the outside still, defending as hard as he possibly can, but Thomas simply has too much grip. As close as the door in the hairpin, and now he's passed into 4th position, trying to get away from them, trying to go to Damien Carril. He's got the superior pace over the Dutchman in P3, but he's got 4.6 seconds to make up, which is a huge amount of time in only 9 laps. But as I was saying about those pit stops, I think it was choosing between two evils. Either you continue on old hard tires, which you're going to have to nurse until the end, or you're going to go for the mediums. Fresh, yes, but only 5 or 6 laps of life in them, and then they're going to be as bad as those old hards, don't you think? Oh!
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. Is Tristan battling on the inside of Lucas Shea. Lucas Shea has got to back out. Felipe Sousa poking his nose in, but had to back out because he could see he was clipping the rear of Lucas Shea and could have potentially been forced into the wall as Alessandro dives down the inside of Sandoval. Meanwhile, Scott Holmes all over the rear of Neil Guillot. He's not allowing Neil to really escape here. Scott Holmes putting a lot of pressure on the French drivers. Neil going defensive into the hairpin. Could Scott potentially win it here for the Haas?
That would be quite something, wouldn't it? Because it would make Haas's day a little bit better. They've lost pole position in Tristan Jansen's collision with Diego, unfortunately, in qualifying. And now Scott Holmes is here to pick up the pieces after what is a quite dramatic day for Tristan. Not the starting position he was after. Now he's already down in P6, which is already out to P5 by Mario's penalty. But he still needs to get past the Ferrari if he wants to challenge Thomas Lamminen for a better position than that. But once again, Marius is making the life difficult for the drivers behind him. And he's got every right to do so, because despite his tires being 15 laps old, and he's going to have to keep them alive for another 7... he's got every right to defend, and Tristan diving on the inside, and Marius got to move out of the way, otherwise they would have a very ugly collision indeed, potentially uglier than Gianluca Nolfo had. And Tristan goes up into P5, but already 3 seconds behind. And look at that. That's Felipe Sousa trying to go. That Lucas Shea side by side, sliding into the wall nearly. And now Alessandro Fin is there as well. Felipe, before his tires will die, must get past now. Otherwise, it's too late. Lucas Shea, though, defending as much as he can. But he's got no choice but to yield. Now Alessandro Fin all over the back of him. But Alessandro is just a bit too far back to get that job done. In the meanwhile, at the front of the field, Damien is up to speed again. He's reduced the gap back to under 1 second. 2 become 3 for the fight on the win on this track tonight. So far, absolutely brilliant racing by everybody. Lots of drama everywhere. Probably a lot of steward inquiries to come as well. But here we are. As it stands, Neil Guillot leads from Scott Holmes and Damien Carril.
Yeah, Damien now closing his way back up to this pack again. He dropped around almost 2 seconds back from Scott now, but now he's closing back up, back inside DRS range again. Has that little bit of a gap helped Damien cool his tyres down a bit, and maybe now he's going for a charge as we've got around 5 laps or so to go. But Scott hasn't really looked too close to really making a move on Neil. I wonder, is Neil just managing this perfectly? Is he just going defensive when he needs to? But he's really worried about his ERS's. Felipe Sousa and Marius battle up the hill, and Felipe Sousa up into P6. Could even jump as high as P5 with Tristan's penalty as well.
Yeah, it looks like the medium tires is the lesser of two evils at the moment, at least. Mario's tires are screaming for relief. They're now 17 laps old. They are older than their stint initially were supposed to take them, but he's got no choice. He cannot pit now, even though he will still finish in P9 because of his 6-second penalty. He might as well swap to the tires to relieve them from their doom, so to say. But I think he wants to stay out there as long as possible, perhaps to await another safety car. But he's gonna finish P9 either way, unless suddenly Alessandro and Lucas fight really hard. For example, here, there's Lucas Shea having to cut the corner against Alessandro Fin. 3 seconds to his name. that might potentially be removable by the stewards post-race. But for now, he's got 3 seconds to his name as well. Alessandro Finn now technically in P7. Despite not qualifying at all, he will finish quite well on the points tonight. In the meanwhile, the top 3 still close together. Still Scott Holmes putting on pressure, but he's gonna have to find a way past. Is he gonna wait until the very last lap to make a proper opportunity? He will have to get a mega exit against the Monaco Master to make a bid for the win. And that is going to be a really, really tall order, I'd say.
Yeah, also missed. Damon Carell picked up a 3-second time penalty.
Oof,
So
yep.
he essentially, at best, is looking at P3 here. Although Thomas Laminen has really not made any inroads on that delta. It's been around 5.5 seconds since he did get ahead of that traffic. So they are still pulling a decent gap to Thomas. So it doesn't really look like the FER driver is catching at all here. But the win now comes down to Scott Holmes and Neil Guillot here on lap 35. Can the French driver hold on with Scott Holmes in behind, looking to pressurise the Ferrari? But can he find the right exit at the right moment to get ahead of the Ferrari? He seems to be very close to the rear now, but does Neil have the battery save? He gets a lovely exit at the final corner. And even though Scott was very close behind, it seems like Neil really managing this perfectly. Burning the battery when he needs to, but Scott's so close behind. Will he be able to find a way to open up the door to get ahead of Neil? We will see.
He might want to force it open, but I'm not sure if he's willing to do so. We saw on his stint on the mediums, Scott Holmes is a bit more careful on his overtaking approach as opposed to Damien, who just swoops past as if they don't exist. Scott Holmes is a bit more careful, and wisely so, because now their tires are equal. It's a lot more difficult, but it seems like Scott Holmes actually has the upper hand in pace. All he needs to do is clear Neil, but that, of course, is insanely hard on a track like this. You saw him getting really close in turn 1, but out of the final corner he had so much wheel spin trying to stay with Neil right there, with the dirty air playing a big factor, of course. It's not easy to get close enough to make an overtake in turn 1. He needs the perfect exit. He might want to stay back on the corner entry, then get a good exit such as this. He's so fast in these final 2 corners. Look at that. And then, of course, comes the main straight, and Neil just drives away that far enough. And then he decides to charge the batteries. Scott sees it. He does the same every single lap. He needs to find the weakness that Neil has, but I don't really think Neil has a weakness. He just positions his car perfectly in every single corner in such a way Scott just simply can't find a way through. Whether he's too far back or whether he's making the Ferrari as wide as possible, he's keeping him behind so far. There's still 2.5 laps to go, I'd say, and then Neil will be flagged as the winner, unless Scott has something to say about it.
Yeah, Scott's going to do something out of the ordinary. He's going to catch Neil off guard. It seems like Neil knows exactly when to push. Anytime there seems to be a straight of any kind, you can see him dump the battery before recharging into the braking zone. Knows exactly when to dump the battery to make sure Scott can't get close enough to go for an overtake. But Scott's going to essentially dump the battery at a point where Neil's not expecting it and go for a lunge at a really corner where you're unlikely to see moves. We'll have to see does Scott come up with any ideas as we're about to start the penultimate lap here. But Neil still holding on to the lead here as we start lap 38.
There he goes once again, battery recharge in the final third of the straight. Scott Holmes sees it, can't do anything about it. He was a bit further back this time still, so that is a problem for him to deal with. His battery is very low, as you can see on the steering wheel. He's doing everything he can to stay as close as possible, but Neil has got it all under control. He can't drive away, but Scott can't get past either. In the background, it's Mario's trying to keep Lucas and Alessandro behind. Their tires are probably as bad as each other. Mario's is probably waiting for the puncture to happen. Perhaps, of course, a few of those laps have been done under the safety car, so maybe it's not as bad as I'm saying right now, but it's obvious that he's not having a great time on those ancient hard tires. We're about to go into the final lap. Neil versus Scott for the win of this race. So far, it's advantage Neil, but Scott is still there in his rearview mirrors.
Yeah, I did mention before the start of the race that Neil, in my eyes, was the favourite, but it has been no easy job for Neil to lead the race as we're about to start the final lap. Could Scott change that as he'll dump the battery down into Saint-Devote? But Neil surely has his number. Scott nowhere close to even think about a sniff of a move. And up the hill, does Scott have any opportunities to get ahead?
No, it looks like it might be too little too late unless Neil makes a big mistake. He will not get past. In the meanwhile, Alessandro Finn and Lucas Shea fighting for scraps on the track. Alessandro doesn't even need to pass him to get that position there. He just needs to stay behind and pick up no penalties, and he'll still finish P8 and perhaps even P7. Let's have a look at that. That actually might not be the case anymore, as Marios is driving away pretty fast now. But back to the front of the field, though, where the exciting things are happening still. Despite Scott Holmes not being able to overtake, it's been quite the exhilarating race to watch. He's getting closer and closer. Neil Guillot as a reserve driver here in F4 for his first win of this season. 41 right here, around the nighttime Monaco. His favorite track, his specialty. The master of Monaco is about to do it once again. We've seen it happen before, and he's going to do it one more time around here. And perhaps many more times to come. There he is on the final bend onto the main straight. Neil Guillot, in one of the most chaotic Monaco races I've ever seen, wins it in F4. Scott Holmes finishes in second place from P9. A rare thing to see in this track indeed. Damien Carril will be happy to know he's just kept Thomas Laminen behind by just under 0.2 of a second. Thomas Laminen, the pole sitter, misses out on the podium. He will not be a happy man tonight. Tristan Janssen from 4th, finishing in P5. Philippe Sousa having made up 2 positions as well. Well done to him in P6. Alessandro Finn from the back of the field in P7. Mostly, of course, because of all those DNFs and the safety car happening. It was an absolutely mental race to watch, but I loved every second of it.
Yeah, what a crazy race. Neil wins. Scott in P2, Damien in P3. And hilarious, Neil and Scott, who are both P1 and P2 this race, are actually P17 and P15 in the standings. That just shows you how quickly things can change in PSGL.
Yep, we're going to have to do our math about Thomas Laminen's championship charge. He had 15 points, and P4 grants you... Let me have a real quick look on the stream as well. P4 is actually 8 points. That will bring up to 23 points. That means he's going to be up into P3. Of course, Gianluca hasn't finished the race, so he's definitely ahead of the of Nando and Alex there. But it's going to be P3 at best for now. Damien Carril, he is currently on 9 points. He will get himself another 10. That means he's going to be up to 19 points. And that means he's going to be 4th in the standings as we speak, if I'm seeing that correctly. Scott Holmes, as you said, is all the way down there. Same goes for Neil. They will be scoring a lot of points tonight and find themselves a lot higher. Scott Holmes will be getting 12 up to 18. Finds himself in the top 5, I'd say. Same goes for Neil Guillot. He'll be up to 18 points as well. And that is quite interesting to see there. What an absolutely fascinating turnaround for the championship. We'll see a lot more contenders tonight. And I really want to see if they've... got some time to interview, or have being interviewed actually, to give us an insight on this extraordinary race. So let me tag them for a bit there.
I will say, if you're Lewis Blower who missed this race, how lucky are you? Lewis is thinking, oh, I've missed Monaco, potentially losing a championship. But Alex Santana retire, so did Gianluca as well. Nando didn't turn up. And then Thomas Laminen, who looked like one of the favourites to win that last safety car restart, got held up so much and only finished P4. So Lewis Blower's really got away here, missing Monaco, and still will keep his championship lead, which I'm sure Lewis is going to be ecstatic about. And as we head to Austria next time out for round 5, could Lewis look to extend that championship lead? It'll be very exciting to see. I think Felipe Sousa will jump up slightly. Where did Felipe end up finishing?
P6.
Yeah, Felipe should climb to... a lot of drivers actually on 18 points. You did mention that. It'll be funny to see how many drivers end up being on 18 points following this round.
Let's see. We've got somebody waiting in the waiting room there, Aro. It's our man in second place. I'd say driver of the day, Scott Holmes. Well done to you. That was quite the race, wasn't it?
Yeah, quite an interesting one considering it's Monaco. Of course, qualifying, as usual for me, was pretty awful. I mean, today was very difficult, especially because I had a school meeting, so I was at my school just before, and I came back home, just jumped on the game. So I didn't really get warmed up, and for me at Monaco, I don't know if this is for everyone, but it takes you quite a while to almost get warmed up to the track, just push the limits a bit more. But qualifying went bad, but then I got into my rhythm after 5-10 laps in the race, and then started to work my way through with a good strategy.
Yeah, we saw you closing the gap to the leaders in the first and second stint. The safety car might have been a big help for you, but what was the most important factor, do you think? Was it the tire strategy or the safety car? Or perhaps a combination?
I think in this race, it was probably the strategy, more because I got into second when the safety car came out. So I was already there. I didn't really make up any more ground from it. It gave me an opportunity to get into the lead, but unfortunately, I mean, Monaco, you can't really get past unless you have a massive advantage on tyres. And no mistake from the leader, pretty much just didn't give me any opportunities. I have to sit behind and just drive around and hope for a mistake.
Right, Arrow, anything you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I was just going to say a fantastic job. We did see you being cautious. Did you think on that final restart there was any opportunities that you missed on the rear of Neil?
Not really any opportunities. I knew that going into it he had 2 warnings from what I was told. So my main aim was just to be all over the back of him, try and push him as hard as possible, maybe get another warning and then a 3-second. Because I didn't really see any opportunities that I'd be able to get past unless there was a major mistake. But yeah, just keep right on him. Hope for the best and see what happens, really.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you so much for giving us some insight. And second place from P9, extraordinary achievement here in Monaco. So well done to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers. And now, Arrow, who do we want next? We've got Damien and Neil waiting. Do you want the race winner first?
Well, I was going to say we'll go for Damien and then give Neil, save the best to last as always.
Yeah, fair point, yeah. We're going to have to drag in then our man finishing in third place. Hi, Damien. We've just dragged you in here. Sorry for interrupting you there.
It's fine.
It's well, I have to say, my fellow Dutchman, congratulations on that third position. A win was possible, of course, but I take you're still quite happy with this one?
Yeah. I mean, I was going for the win, of course, but unfortunately, I felt like I was on the wrong strat. I think starting medium and then end on the hard set. Yeah, I think that's way better. Nael did it, so congrats to him. But I was struggling at the medium stint. I mean, I got some lovely overtakes. Like really.
Yeah, we saw those.
overtake.
We went wild in the commentary box, by the way.
I'm gonna rewatch that then. Nah, but it was a good race. For the rest, I got a little bit of damage, 50% wing damage. In the last stint, so that's why I couldn't like fight Scott and Nael. I tried to hang in there, but like the last 10 laps, it was just too hard for me. So, and I had a 3-second penalty, but I have 1 warning because of a fight, like the overtakes on the medium stint, so I can remove that one. But I think it's not even necessary because I still finished P3. But yeah, it was for the rest. It was a sweaty race. It was.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
Aro, anything from you you'd like to ask?
Yeah, Damien, I was just going to say some of those overtakes were some of the most mental overtakes I've ever seen, especially at Monaco. Not even just Monaco, some brilliant overtakes there. There was one down the hill at the hairpin on the outside, such an unorthodox place to make a move. It was beautiful. But I think the move of the day was definitely up the hill at Casino on Felipe Sousa. A switchback.
That was perfect. That was,
It made me make a noise that I'm not quite sure is allowed on YouTube, but what an overtake. I've not really any questions for you, just a fantastic show. But unfortunately, just a P3. With that kind of performance, you just hope it could be a win, but just as it played out, ended up being a podium. But I'm sure you're happy with that anyway.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hopefully next week I will speak to you guys again.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Right. Well, Aro, I'm going to give the honors here to you for the final interview tonight with our race winner, Neil Guillot, the Master of Monaco, in the commentary box now.
All right. Hi, Neil. Hope you're doing all well. How'd that race go for you, Neil? I did honestly say before the start of the race that I did believe you're the favourite, but it honestly didn't play out that way. It didn't seem as easy as it could have been. But in the end, you did pull out the victory. How tough of a final stint was that?
Well, to be honest, I'm done. I'm really, that was quite difficult last stint. Scott, man, his pace was incredible on the last stint. I did not believe I couldn't gap him, honestly. So I just had to keep my head cool and, well, make sure I had enough ERS to defend in the crucial zones when I wasn't particularly good at. And yeah, I'll be honest, my leg was trembling like an incredible amount the last 8 laps. I couldn't put the throttle on properly without stressing. Every braking zone was like, I need to go around. I had 2 track limit warnings at the end. I need to go around the corner, not get a limit, not get a 3 second. And yeah, super stressful, but in the end, it paid off.
Yeah, brilliant performance there. Did you believe that the medium hard was always going to be the quickest strategy?
Well, it really depended on where I started on the grid. With starting obviously P3 after interesting quality, it meant that I could be free to undercut P2 and P1. So definitely the medium hard starting from P3 was definitely the better choice. But you know, if I started pole, then maybe I would have gone hard. It would have been different. I don't know, but yeah, I think I'm still happy with my strategy. Obviously, without the safety car, it would have been a much more comfortable win, I think. But yeah, I think it's the right strategy.
I think before the safety car came out, was the gap around 10 seconds or so?
It was around 8, something like that. So it was, yeah.
Yeah, because I did see that Tomas and Damien, they entered the box, but they weren't on that much better hards. It was only a lap or 2, so I was thinking you might have this in the bag, but that safety car really spiced things up, and even Scott Holmes putting pressure onto the death. But fantastic win, Neil. And Rob, also, do you have any questions as well?
Yeah, only one. How annoyed were you on a scale of 1 to 10 when the safety car came out?
10. 9. 9.
Well, okay.
Honest answer, 8. You know,
okay.
It's not easy to overtake, obviously, around a track. Obviously, everyone knows that. But you know, if it was any other track, it would have been 10. But yeah, 8 just because you know you can't really overtake here when you know you're quicker. Well, you thought you were quicker, but in the end, maybe not. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
So I mean, it didn't really matter in the end, but.
Yeah,
I was kind of fuck, man. Like, oh, I can't say that.
We're gonna get demonetized now.
Oh no. Oh, I have to ruin PSGL for life. No, but yeah, no. I was like, beep. So yeah, there we go.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and well, enjoy this hard-fought and sweaty victory for you.
Thank you.
Cheers. All right. It's quite a rare thing to see the entire top 3 joining us for an interview, but I think it's only fair because this, I think, personally, was the most entertaining race so far of the entire season, wasn't it, Aro?
Yeah, Monaco is not normally a track where the racing is entertaining, but oh my word, some of the overtakes, even the strategy, seeing how everything is playing out was just sublime to watch. Damien's overtakes, I think I'm going to have some of the posters on my wall with how beautiful they were, especially that one on Felipe Sousa Casino. That was one of the best overtakes I've seen ever in all my years commentating.
Yeah, absolutely extraordinary. And there's still a long way to go in this season as well. Let's have a little look at the calendar before we say our goodbyes for tonight. Round 4 has been finished now. We are 3rd of the way in this season. There's 11 races in total. Next week, of course, is going to be another absolutely brilliant track. It is going to be one of my personal favorites to watch in league racing. It is going to be Austria, Aro. I think that's going to be a good one as well.
Yeah, Austria is a fantastic track. So many places to overtake, and it is going to be an exciting one. It's another one, but it's even more interesting with Austria because it is a mix. I've seen a lot of leagues where it's a 1-stop, it can be a 2-stop. So it'll be interesting to see what the drivers come up with in that track. But of any track I want to visit in the whole world, I think Austria Turn 3 is a fantastic place to be sitting at. And I'm going to be trying to be sitting there next year because it's one of the funnest track to watch on TV.
Absolutely, and that actually concludes tonight's brilliant broadcast here for F4. Thank you so much for tuning in with us for this tier. Extraordinary racing once again with these 15 drivers. A lot of drama, and I think the stewards might have a busy night here for this tier in particular. Can already see some inquiries streaming in. It stands at 2 at the moment. One of them is a track limit removal, I believe, for Lucas Shea. The other one is a report on Lucas Shea to Alessandro Finn. That probably happened in the final few laps. I think some drama happened by that point. And so we'll have to see what comes of that. Otherwise, Lewis Bloor is still your championship leader, but we might see some more drivers getting into contention. We'll see next week how the cars are going to be shuffled there. For now, though, thank you so much for watching from the both of us. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. We'll see you next week, same place, same time. Until then, goodbye.